Would you guys like your car to start every time you hit the key after it's sat for a while? Then you need to watch this video, and we'll show you how to make your car start every time. The first problem that most people have with getting their car to start is they say, my battery's dead. And people don't understand why every time they let their old antique car or their car that they drive occasionally sit, that when they go to start it, it doesn't start. So what we're trying to do is explain to you why that is. So here's an analogy. This is a battery, right? Batteries are like cups of water, okay? The size of the battery is the size of the cup of water. How much it's charged is how much water's in it. All right, so your battery is a lot like this cup of water. This cup of water, the size of it is the amount of amp hours that your battery has. Bigger batteries tend to have more amp hours of reserve power. How much water's in it is how much charge your battery has. If your battery's half charged, not so much water in it. Nate here is going to show us what the good old parasitic loss looks like. Every car in the world has what's called parasitic loss. There's a drain on the battery all the time when the key's off. Typically, on the low end, what we're looking for is about 25 milliamps of parasitic loss. Nate is going to describe very graphically what 25 milliamps of parasitic loss does to your battery. Parasitic loss means. Whew. Okay, so we got a 25 milliamp parasitic loss in our battery. We got quite a bit of water here, it'll last a while, but is it gonna stay full forever? Probably no. We're not gonna see lower than that hardly ever. A lot of you guys out there have a lot of wonky crap in your car, and a lot of that stuff draws power all the time. You're leaving your phone charger. Oh, I just left it in the cigarette lighter. It's not gonna hurt anything, you know. But you know what? It draws power. Everything draws power. As you can see, this 100 milliamp draw could be a problem. So as you can see, you get a huge draw on your car when it's static, and it doesn't take long to drain your battery. I mean, this thing is running out quick. So if you have a big draw on your car, you're not going to be able to keep even a large battery charged. And you know what? When it gets down to here, do you think this much voltage is starting your car? No, it's not starting your car. So Nate is going to show us how to do a draw test on the car so you know, do you have the little hole or do you have the big hole in your milliamp draw? This car here, contrary to most people's beliefs, is actually a Mopar. We do work on those. This is a 70 CUDA, 440 big block, 5-speed, and it does have an MSD atomic EFI on it. So being that it has an EFI module on it, we're going to expect to have a little bit more milliamp draw on this thing because you have modules that are going to draw just a little bit all the time. So Nate, show us the damage.
All right. Okay, so this is your digital multimeter. This is the tool that I use 99% of the time to test most basic electrical things. Anybody in their garage should have one of these. This is like the tool to have if you're trying to do the shade tree mechanic style thing. But you're gonna set up your multimeter. Your COM port will be your ground still, just like you were testing voltage. And then since we're testing a parasitic draw, we'll plug into the amp port, which is indicated by the A on the multimeter. So to perform a parasitic draw test, first you want to disconnect the negative battery cable. You want to make sure it's the negative so that you don't go shorting anything or causing sparks. What you're going to do is you're going to turn your multimeter on to the milliamp setting because that's the That's the range that we're looking for as far as a parasitic draw is concerned. And we're going to put our positive lead on our negative battery cable, and then we're going to put our negative lead on the negative battery terminal of the battery. At this point, we should be able to see what kind of parasitic draw the vehicle has. So this battery has a 27 milliamp draw, which for a muscle car with electronic fuel injection would be pretty normal. That would be about on our low end of the expected range.
Another problem that a lot of people have with their car starting is that they don't really have the charging system up to snuff, and it's not charging the battery fully. So if you were looking at our cup of water, they're never dealing with a full cup of water. We like to see 14.5, 14.7 volts at the battery. A lot of people will grab a voltmeter and they'll test the voltage right at the alternator, which is great. That means the alternator's putting out a good amount of voltage, 14.5, 14.7, usually they are. But you know what? You need to take that meter and you need to go back to the battery and see what the battery sees. Because a lot of times we'll see cars come in here that do not have a thick enough wire going from the alternator to the battery. And what that causes is a bunch of voltage loss. And there's times you'll see only 12 volts at the battery and you'll have 14.5 volts at the alternator. Well, that's just not going to get the job done. You're starting off in the hole. Your car doesn't have the voltage that it should go into the battery. The battery's never going to have the voltage it should, and when you go to start it, it's going to crank slow. Typically, as a rule of thumb for us, a lot of these cars with a lot of the electronics and everything, and you know, MSD ignition modules and all the other stuff that's running on them, and electric fans, we'll run a 4-gauge cable from the alternator to the starter, and then the starter back to the battery, which on most of these cars is in the back now, is an 0.8-gauge welding cable. And then the thing that a ton of people do that causes a lot of problems is they ground the battery that's mounted in the back to the rusty old chassis right next to the battery. Well, guess what? It's a crapshoot as to how much voltage loss you're getting between the battery and the starter itself. If the starter doesn't have good ground and good power, it's not going to turn over. It's going to crank slow and it's going to give you a bunch of problems. So if the battery's full and you've got good cabling and your alternator is charging, you're getting a long way towards your car starting every time.
Alright, so hooking up a battery tender is very, very simple. With one of our Optima battery tenders, we are going to place the red clamp on the positive post and the black clamp on the negative post. And then here on our battery charger right here, Optima makes it real easy for us. We're going to select our deep cycle yellow top battery and it'll do its thing. So this tender is the faucet that keeps your cup full and makes sure that you have the optimum battery voltage to make sure your car starts every time.
So if you guys liked the video today, please click the like button and subscribe. And if you're interested in any of the products that we featured today, just go down to the description and there'll be a link there for you to follow.